just the technical people to have this technical conversation. My goal was to do a lot of brainstorming as well as visioning, as well as, talking about regional collaboration, as a process, and to give everybody the background that they may want to need to know in terms of what we're talking about as it relates to Coastal Trident, Antex, and this opportunity for smart city technology innovation. So why don't we go through and do some introductions? Sasha, are you taping this? Have you started the tape?
Yeah, we are recording.
Okay, terrific. So this will be kind of fun. And maybe we'll have one or two more join us before it's all said and done, but thank you for being here. Bill Simmons is my name, and been working with Alan for probably a better part of a decade at this point that I can think of. I've been involved with the exercise that Alan is hosting, and he's worn a couple of hats, and I've worked with him as the hats change. I think he's going to probably stick with the hat he's got for the time being. But Alan, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll go around the screen and have everybody just give a hi, how goes it from where their perspective is, and then we'll dive into the background of the exercise and what we're talking about.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, I see some friendly, familiar faces. So good to see you guys again, and a couple of people I don't think I've met yet, so looking forward to it. My name's Alan. I work for the Naval Surface Warfare Center Port Hueneme Division. So we are one of 10 divisions of the Naval Surface Warfare Center enterprise out here at Port Hueneme. And I kind of wear two hats with the organization. Primarily, I am what's called the Office of Research and Technology Applications Manager. So I work for our Chief Technology Officer as the Deputy for Technology Transition. So sort of my counterpart is the research side, and then I support the transition, and I do that through utilizing a lot of our Section 233 non-federal acquisition regulation authorities that allow us to do partnership intermediary agreements, educational partnership agreements, CRADAs, things like that, that allow us to be able to work with industry and academic partners in kind of that transition transfer position. And so not only is that kind of federal law that, the technologies developed by the Navy need to be made available to the public sector, but it also allows for the transition into the Navy from the private or public sector. The second hat I wear is where I'm at right now, which is as the director of the Ventura Tech Bridge. This is a naval agility or naval X initiative, one of 15 around the country that are aligned to the duties as the ORDA, right? This is a physical space that we can work with industries, academic partners to be able to help accelerate capabilities to the fleet and warfighter. And so we do, and I'll talk a little bit more about this idea of an innovation pipeline. It's something that Bill has been masterminding for a number of years. I think it looked like a funnel at one point, but we're calling it a pipeline now, and Naval X has kind of adopted it. And the physical space here sort of allows and supports that. And then as we transition into kind of our topic today, which is the Antex Coastal Trident as the space and the opportunity to really test and evaluate and mature those capabilities. So that was probably too long of an introduction. Sorry, Bill, but I'll be quiet now. Just real quick, audio check. I know there's some background noise. Is that too much for you guys? Should I relocate?
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
You're fine.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. If there's a couple other things going on here, so if it gets noisy, just tell me to move.
Sasha, why don't you go next, and then George, and then Jeff.
Perfect. I'm Sasha Burrows. I'm working with Bill currently doing some communications for the BCPC.
George?
Hi, George Amendola. I have a company called Cyber Dynamics. We're specializing in cybersecurity assessment and privacy compliance assessment. Also in stealth mode on a couple tech projects.
Thank you, George. Jeff.
And I'm Jeff Buckingham, president of Digital West. And, I've been involved in telecom since about 1983, and currently our partnership recently with Wave, we're really looking to accelerate our fiber deployment throughout the Central Coast, kind of between LA and Salinas, let's say.
Congratulations, Jeff. And appreciate the support you guys have been with the consortia.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bill. And we really appreciate all the work that you've done and the group has done. And I know I haven't gotten to be as involved in this as I'd like. Tim gets to have all the fun, but.
Next, right below you on my screen is Jamie Fleming.
Jamie Fleming, Ohio Chamber of Commerce. Very, very interested in exploring where we head in the smart cities realm. Thank you for including me.
And then Steve Weingart.
Hi, I'm Steve Weingart with Ridge Communications. Ridge Communications provides outside plant and services for the Tier 1 carriers, ILEX, throughout California and in the Southeast. My particular division in Southern California is involved in outside plant engineering, construction, maintenance, repair, permitting, fiber networks for the ILEX and the Tier 1 carriers. And I'm here with principal in Ridge Communications, Russ Patridge. We're very interested in continuing our participation in implementing 5G and public safety networks. And we think that this invitation can show us a considerable amount of new technology that we would very much like to be part of.
Thank you for being here, Steve. Noel Heredia.
Hi, guys. I am from Digital Value Creation. We basically provide part-time CTO services to small and medium-sized companies and nonprofits. They sorely lack a member on their team who understands the potential of technology to, do what they're doing in business and compete in the digital world. And I work with larger corporations in designing and implementing program delivery orchestration strategies. We don't call it program management because anybody who claims he is in the management game is probably deluding himself. Orchestration of the various forces that exist is probably the more appropriate way to describe it. So that's what we do, design using capability reference models to design the implementation of an objective. And that's the second thing, digital value.
Thank you, Noel.
Glad to be here with this.
Russ Patridge, Steve gave you an introduction. You want to add to that at all?
Well, I'm one of the owners of Ridge Communications, and we are a true turnkey service provider for the industry. I have been a part of the telecom industry since the late 1960s. So I've seen this industry go from green acres to the Jetsons, and really find this project that you all have going very, very interesting, and think that it's got some tremendous potential.
Russ, I'm going to use that green acres to Jetsons. I mean, that's a keeper.
Good.
And Greg Hayward. Greg.
Good morning, everyone. Greg Hayward, president of the Alan Jaeger fan club and the director of the Jaeger Hayward Super PAC for 2024. So we're looking forward to getting your votes. Otherwise, I provide janitorial services for a couple tech startups.
And he's much too modest, but quite presidential. So, all right. So let's, Alan, you and I just kind of banter back and forth for a little while and, provide the background, the historical perspective. How long has Coastal Trident and Antex been around? The Antex, I guess, has just been with us for the last 2 or 3. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. He's bouncing around there. Alan, are you with us?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Bill. I thought I'd relocate to a better spot, but it didn't agree with me.
Are you having spotty Wi-Fi?
Yeah, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So give us a little bit of a history in the program.
Sure. So, boy, this is our 15th year. So we have some longevity, if that's the right word, for this longevity for the program, which is two things. It's sort of testament that it works, but more importantly, we've been able to adjust over the years. So the program that we started 15 years ago is very different of what we're doing now. We still have the same sort of overall goals and objectives of the program, but how it's grown and developed has really been pretty impressive. So it started as well, gosh, if we go way back to as a program between the Naval Postgraduate School and the commercial port of Hueneme. And it was really focused on looking at asymmetric threats to a port and maritime environment. Asymmetric being anything other than sort of state on state warfare. And so that was fires, that was floods, really kind of recognizing that a port is a unique environment with multi-jurisdictions. And when something were to happen that either happened in the port or threatened sort of the maritime transportation industry, it would require a whole of government approach, coming into it. So it wasn't just a house fire or a law enforcement action, right? The port is such a complex network of jurisdictions that it was a really unique opportunity to look at the response, the preparation, the preparedness of incidents affecting, of course, the maritime transportation is such a huge economic impact that it was a nice sort of playground to do that in. And under the guidance and our role within the Naval Postgraduate School, looking at asymmetric threats, the port was a perfect environment, and we were entered into what we called a cooperative research and development agreement, a CRADA, with the port. And it was very focused on a port exercise, some kind of incident at the port that would require this multi-jurisdiction response, and we would exercise that out with them. It really kind of stayed that way for a number of years, probably starting about 6 years ago is when it really expanded to maybe a little bit longer than that. There's tremendous value that was sort of recognized in operating in a port and the complexities of the port. And so we saw the jurisdictional play engagement really expand from, we had law enforcement and responders from San Diego to Santa Barbara that would start to incorporate Coastal Trident into their annual exercise and training program because it was such a unique environment. So about 6 years ago is when we started recognizing that this was also a great venue to start to inject technology into and utilize the environment, utilize the responders for a technology development, experimentation, and what we call transition venue. And the initial technologies were really primarily focused on communication networks, right, between jurisdictions. So some of the early, after 9/11, we kind of realized and learned, and it took us a long time to figure out how to have radios talk to each other, how to share common operational pictures, how to start sharing information across the maritime domain. So a lot of the early technologies were focused on those types of threads. And then it's really expanded since then into utilizing the space, the venue, the environment. And again, it spans from San Diego to Santa Barbara as this idea of an innovation pipeline, right? Being able to really make use of the space, of the participants. Everybody's sort of getting something out of it, whether that be an exercise, whether that be a training element, or whether that be opportunity for technology developers to get capabilities early into the hands of responders to understand what those requirements would be, what those challenges would be, what that operational environment looks like, to be able to further develop it. So that's kind of where we started and where we're at today. The last 2 years, this will be our third year, we have aligned it directly under what's called ANTEX, or Advanced Naval Technology Exercise. And so that's a larger initiative across the DoD that is focused on technology development and transition. And so this was Coastal Trident, being a mature and robust program that was already doing a lot of this anyway. It made sense to kind of bring those two together, not develop a new program or a separate program, but really leverage what we've built into this idea of Navy-focused technology also. So hopefully that provides a little bit of a background context for you, Bill. Again, I can fill in any blanks if you have them.
Well, and just over the years, I can recall banana boats and oil platforms and dirty bombs. A few years back, we had actual sea mammals, the seals and the porpoises taking out underwater divers. It's just, you've had the whole spectrum of presentations of threats, the shipboard firefighting. I mean, it's been amazing the amount of, and how many different participants now is your largest exercise, 150 maybe, or?
Yeah, I think last year we topped 209 different separate entities or agencies or companies that were involved.
A couple years ago, the FBI showed up and they wanted to do different testing for UUVs, underwater vehicles. And they had 6 or 8 different vendors that had different kinds of, I mean, you name it. You got the Navy in this particular area, the coast, what we're known for is test and evaluation. If you're going to build something, you bring it to Ventura County to do it. And what's happening with this exercise is it's getting outside of the military fence. It's now including public safety. Well, we're hoping it, from a regional perspective in the Tri-County area, to eventually take smart city tech, this whole innovation process, regionalize it and become recognized across the country as where you would come and test and evaluate all this stuff. We've been doing it for years with military tech. Now we want to just go and push it much beyond the military itself. That's big vision.
Yeah, and I think this has been a test bed for a number of years for these types of technologies, for the development of them. Like Bill had mentioned, we have had, almost any kind of ship you imagine, whether it be a gray hull, whether it be a hornblower dinner cruise. I don't think we've had a submarine. That might be the only thing we haven't had yet, although that might be coming. Stay tuned. But this is such a, from a geographic perspective, this whole Oxnard Plain and the naval base and the port is such a unique environment. The assets and the resources we have, I mean, it really is unparalleled anywhere, I think, in the country. And so the ability to pull these types of resources in, be that offshore oil platforms, commercial vessels, military vessels, military side of the port, commercial side of the port, it's a phenomenal space. And like Bill said, I mean, the sort of the stakeholders, the owners of the assets, I think are at a point now that they understand and see the value that this is. I mean, even the fact that where I'm sitting right here at the commercial port of Hueneme, for a number of years, we would do what we would call our tech expos here. We'd invite all the participants that brought capabilities or demonstrated or experimented within Coastal Trident, and we'd have a day, usually the end of July timeframe, and we'd have everybody come here. We'd share the information, we'd do demos, things like that. We realized that there's sort of a need for an ongoing space like this, right? Instead of building it up once a year, doing the demonstrations, having everybody come, let's set it up as a steady state lab. And that's sort of where I'm at now. This is the FathomWorks lab that supports the ongoing exercise. And I think what we're seeing is more and more of that type of mentality, that we can use this as a test bed. We don't have to build it up once and take it down. And even as Coastal Trident grows and Antex grows, and we start to look at these smart city technologies, right? There's a ability to do some long-term testing and to utilize the space long-term, supporting Antex, supporting Coastal Trident, but really having a space that we can test things kind of, again, for a duration of time.
So Alan, in terms of the process itself, the three value propositions I see is number one, you guys can help with venues. If somebody wants to get on board a ship, if somebody wants to get, into a municipality, if somebody wants to go anywhere, within the region, you've got access and reach back and the ability to knock on doors and get it just about any venue you can imagine to do something like this. The second one would be the collaborative partners. The number of folks that you've had participating, you can get feedback from just about everybody and anybody just on anything, an experiment or any kind of tech or pilot or anything like that. And the third one would be the feedback. You actually run, tests and you experiment with it, and users, first responders, or maybe in the case of going into the smart city, it would be municipalities themselves could provide feedback in terms of the tech that they're seeing and the feedback for it. And so that's the value proposition I think that we're really wanting to hone and work with and play with. Thoughts about that?
I'll add one thing, and then probably there'll be some people with questions. Back a couple years ago, when the term sort of crowdsourcing became common, we like to try and apply that to exactly what you were saying, Bill. While we don't own or pretend to own or want to own, experimentation in the port and maritime domain completely, I think what Coastal Trident is this, and I'll put air quotes, right, crowdsourced ability where we have this sort of critical mass where, like you said, the Navy has invested time and money to sort of plan and provide access to venues that might not otherwise be available. But then we have this larger community of stakeholders, of developers, of users that are really interested in seeing this happen. And so it's like, it's not really crowdsourced that, sort of true entrepreneurs think of, but it does have a critical mass of interested stakeholders willing to, everybody kind of put their, what they have to offer forward for the greater good. And again, that's whether that's access to a platform, whether that's access to a ship or a space, it's sort of become just sort of this idea that if you have assets or availability and it can be used, we've had very good luck at getting those types of venues available in this format.
So I'm going to go to Greg real quickly, but Alan, when we come back, I want to talk about the module construct that you've got. Greg, when you're not doing your custodial duties, I appreciate the companies that you've been steering my direction over the last few days, a number of different companies with the goal of participating in the exercise. You yourself from Water Einstein have been a participant in the process for the last several years. You want to just share from the first time you came in, the first time you engaged, where you've come and what you've been thinking about and learning, and maybe even what you're going to do this year.
Thanks, Bill. Collaboration. We all tend to work in silos as entrepreneurs and get real myopic on solving a problem, and which is great. But when you bring that into an environment that other people are trying to do the same kinds of things that are complementary, being able to tie all those together and have access to the in-kind assets that Coastal Trident provides, it's really unparalleled in both the ability and in the intent. And so being able to work with other people in an ecosystem that is really supportive and has like-minded goals really facilitates moving things forward quite a bit. I've been the beneficiary of further interaction with companies like Avnet and Elite Robotics and some others because of the relationships we made participating in Coastal Trident over the years.
Yep. The whole Water Einstein, you've run a number of different exercises where you've been beaming off the coast to different receptors and
yeah, those were great experiments. What we were looking to do was test Semtech's communication protocol called LoRa, L-O-R-A, and having a transponder on a Long Beach Sheriff Department boat that went out 23 miles and we still could get connectivity on the seas from all sorts of different gateways on land really validated that that technology had some benefits that were worth exploring in other applications.
Yeah. This year, you're looking at broadband.
Yeah, broad share and trackable health are going to participate in Coastal Trident 21. We have made an association with a company called Ripple Networks, and they're doing some great things with asset tracking and communications protocols out at the port already. And so we're going to combine forces, and really that term collaboration is not just part of this exercise, it's a mandate in tech now. And so if you can't play nice with everybody, your solution may be great, but it's going to die on the vine.
So Alan, there's a reason that you've designed the exercises the way you do. It's modules, and that's so one particular project won't hold up the whole show. You want to elaborate on that some?
I do. Can I hijack your question first, Bill, and pose a loaded question to Greg? Because I think I will say what I think my answer is, but Greg, being sort of a good participant for a number of years, you can probably articulate it better than I. Coastal Trident is not designed to be a marketing or sales type of venue or event. It's truly designed to further the technology where we can fail, we can experiment, and this will go into the modular question, I promise, Bill. So, but I think, providing some context to folks that aren't familiar with it, a lot of times, and even some of the other Navy exercise events where they invite the public to come in, there's sort of this pass or fail idea, or this idea that, there's going to be some high level people that are going to come in at the end and want to scoop up and buy the stuff. And there's a place for that. And I'm not knocking that, but Coastal Trident really isn't designed to be that. It's really designed to be, like Greg said, a place where, hey, there's an opportunity to test, experiment, to learn a little bit more, to put it in hands of people that maybe haven't seen it before, to collaborate across technologies. And so anyway, Greg, that's sort of my answer to that, but I would be curious if you can articulate it in a term maybe that, somebody with an entrepreneurial background and a company coming in would understand.
You did a great job, of course, Alan, but it's a safe place. It's a sandbox. It's a time to come in and think about things that you may not have considered. And when you put it in the context of the overall biggest challenge of keeping a nuclear bomb out of our ports, everything else is pretty trivial. So, we can get in there and we can do things. And if it doesn't work out, the intent to do better is enough at this stage. And then you can advance your goals along with what the port and the Navy and others feel is really their mandate.
Excellent. So thank you, Greg. And I think that goes into, Bill, your question, modular. And so we designed the program, like for instance, this year we have 44 different projects or experiments that are happening. There's a certain degree of interrelation that we want to have, right? I mean, we want to be able to, and I'll just keep going back to Greg, sorry, right? We want to be able to put Greg's LoRa technology onto a ship and get it off-site and out of sea. And so, but in order to do that, right, we have to sort of align, in this case, the Long Beach Sheriff's Department. They have to do an exercise where they're willing to put their boat out to do something and to carry a piece of technology that serves two purposes. And so we spent a lot of time, and I think probably one of the secrets to success of this program, I guess it's not such a secret, but is this modular construct, is being able to understand what the goals and objectives are of the different projects, understand how to align those with some of the operational exercise elements, and then being able to fit them together. And that way, we don't have to schedule time on Long Beach Sheriff's boat just to put a piece of technology on and take them away from something that they need to be doing, but we're combining those two at the same time. And so that's where we get this modular construct where, working with the individual experiments and the individual experimenters, as well as coordinating with the exercise elements, is we build these modules. And in that way, we can leverage the environment, we can leverage the resources. But like you alluded to, Bill, sometimes things happen. I mean, sometimes we think we have a piece of technology that works and we get it out, and as soon as it gets wet, it doesn't work. And so we don't want to hold up an entire iteration or entire exercise element because something doesn't work, because that's what happens, and that's what we're learning for. And so we modulize them into ways that make sense, sometimes not so much from the first glance of why they're in these different modules, but they're modularized so that one thing failing or not working, I shouldn't even use the term fail, right? One thing that didn't work the way we thought it would work isn't going to stop or affect something else. It's a very, very long description, I guess, of what we're doing. So for instance, this year, and Bill, I don't know if you have the material, you can share it or not, but we've just finished our initial planning meeting. We have 44 different projects. I think we have about 8 different modules where we're grouping those projects together to take advantage of either the collaborative opportunities, the physical space, the physical assets, what they're riding on. And it's very, very common that some will drop off, we'll get new ones added in. That's all part of the process. And that's, I think, what's made it successful.
Well, and I would also suggest that there are opportunities where we have an oil derrick, we have a Navy ship, we have, X that you can utilize, and to get a hold of those things in any other manner is not possible as far as I have experienced. And then to be able to change or expand the focus from port security and the kinds of things that the Coastal Trident started with and get into the smart city application, there's a lot of redundancy and need. Fire tracking, gunshot detection, whatever it may be that the port would benefit from, general cities, would benefit from as well. So it really advances a lot more than just port security at this point.
I was looking for your modularization picture from the IPM, and I haven't found it anywhere. We've got lists of the various projects, and but we don't have that big. I haven't seen that tree that you've got where you have the different modules, and I was looking for it all in one picture, and I'm not sure we want to necessarily go through all the modules and talk about. I mean, maybe we can just do a representative. Sasha, can I share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, let's see here, just real quickly. Can you see that? Yeah.
Mhm.
So you've got radiological detection, underwater search and salvation, environmental contaminants. Alan, I wonder if some of this low light imaging might have some application for, the street lights. I don't know if you have any background or thought in terms of these. These are in terms of how you've structured them, where they're going to go, how they fit.
Well, you bring up a perfect point, Bill, in that by sharing these information and by sharing these modular activities, the questions that you just asked come up, right? I mean, no, I've never thought of it in my entire life of a streetlight application, but you're exactly right. Probably does have.
Hybrid electric UAS for perimeter security applications. I mean, I'm sure that some of this energy independent UAS navigations, there's a lot of stuff here. Autonomous mobile threat detection, water jet disruption, wearable sensors, Sentinel, and personalized analytics for health and safety monitoring. Greg, that sounds familiar. Oh, there's Greg and trackable health. And so.
Hey, Alan.
Yes.
Can we set up a light pole out at FathomWorks? Be able to see what we can hang, what the power consumption's like, all those kind of tests?
Absolutely. We can set it up inside, or we can set it up inside and go use one of the port's power poles on the outside. I'm sure. I mean, they've done a good job at actually putting network connectivity between their poles for their cameras and some other sensors. So again, if we want to start out something inside and FathomWorks and move it outside, we can do all of that.
So here's the basic slide that we've been sharing as a consortium, but it's also been embedded into the exercise itself. And that is what we're looking to do is create these discussions, these partnerships related to technology as it relates to municipalities, and to bring that into this conversation and use this as a forum. Alan, you might talk about Smart Port, your history with the port in terms of the vision that they have and how some of the technologies related to the Smart Port may be portable into municipalities after they've been proven out.
Sure, I will. I can't not represent the port, but I have talked with them, and we've worked together for many years, so I can give you kind of a general idea of what they're looking for. I do not know the municipal world, so I can't speak to that, but I can try and connect some dots. Like we started out with, is the port is its own unique special government district. It has a number of different jurisdictions, and so it has, we routinely have fire, law enforcement folks coming on, as well as sort of your normal traffic. Looking at tracking people, cars, cargo. You have boats coming on, cameras, perimeter security. And so I think, from the port's perspective, this idea of a smart port and being able to connect these different systems and being able to understand and optimize their operations. George, the conversation we had yesterday, I guess, right, is starting to intelligently understand the operations that happen in an area and using the tools that you have. I think that's kind of where a smart port starts to look like. And so to whatever extent that we can leverage and use that as a test bed or an experimentation center to learn about the capabilities that have some kind of transition or some type of alignment with the smart city perspective. Again, I think that the port itself offers a really unique kind of closed environment to do this experimentation, testing, demonstrating for these kinds of things. And I know they, again, I can't speak for Christina or Kristen, but they've always been very open to the idea of this kind of stuff and these kinds of technologies, bringing to the port for their awareness and understanding, but also as a good regional partner to allow for the larger communities to understand, what works and what doesn't work.
So I'm going to make one more push in terms of where things are at, and then let you guys be asking questions and brainstorming. In the last few weeks, in having these discussions, the world of possibilities has come, has opened up. Greg obviously has got trackable health and then broadband sharing. The schools are interested in tracking, facility security, in things when kids come through the gate. Somehow or another during the course of the day, they may disappear. Is there things that we can figure out where they went and what they're doing, how they're, where, and maintain some kind of situational awareness of the schoolyard. Fire detection, both cities of Ventura and Oxnard have talked about the fires that have occurred in the riverbed. And can we find one company a few years back with Coastal Trident was called Flame Sniffer. I believe they were working with Edison, and then they could detect where fires were popping up in fire season. And those are always tests that we can be running and talking about. The world of cameras is always big. Keeping track of homeless populations in the riverbed is something that folks are interested in. SCADA, the supervisory control and data acquisition, the number of utilities are involved with the cities that we're talking to, and just maintaining some sense of visualization and cognitive oversight of all the controls and sensors is something that the Navy is indeed interested in terms of monitoring its ships. But the same kind of technology is applicable to municipalities. Autonomous transportation is a big one, and we're talking to VCTC, the Transportation Commission. We've run into a company we'll be talking to the day after tomorrow with driverless buses for mini hauls. That it's a drone basically that will pick people up and deliver them to within limited confines. And then so all of these things are possibilities. What we've got to do is take it down in the next 30, 60 days to definite demonstrations and proof of concepts. What we've found is that everybody is interested in this at this point. You know, between COVID, between this new way of doing business together, collaboration is alive and well. And now what we've got to do is take it into chunks and define it into projects and start the conversation. Alan, talk about crawl, walk, run, and why that's so integral to just what you do every year.
Yeah, okay. I think crawl, walk, run started very early on when we said, hey, you know, we're gonna take baby steps before we get up and walk and before we're running. And we recognized the complexity of sort of what we were doing from an exercise perspective. And so crawl in our minds were sort of a tabletop discussion. A walk would be something we would do the next year, where it would be maybe kind of a limited functional exercise, and then run would be a full scale exercise. That same mentality, though, and that same sort of way of thinking about it is also how we approach the technology aspect of it. So we can come in and we can crawl, we can have discussions, we can help facilitate a discussion, we can have tabletop exercises. In sort of the crawl area, we can walk, we can do some limited testing, some point-to-point testing, and then run would be, hey, let's actually deploy it in a way that we think smart cities would be deployed, or something like that. I think the point being that you're trying to get to, Bill, is the construct of crawl, walk, run, and being able to accommodate possible technologies and capabilities at any level, right? They don't have to be mature. They don't have to be the end product that you think you're going to put a bow on and sell, right? It can be that very, very early prototype, hacked together, soldered it in your garage, first version of something that we can learn from. And back to what was said earlier, is it's a safe space. It's a space that we can fail and learn. We truly embrace that, and that modular concept allows for that to happen, so that there isn't this pressure that we have to jump in and run and it's showtime, right? It is an iterative process, and in fact, we have a lot of companies that come many years. I shouldn't just say companies, it can be also military labs and other entities that come many years, and we see them, and they've sort of come from that crawl to the walk to the run, and benefited from that construct.
So before I open it up, George Amendola asked a question in our last week meeting if whether or not we'd reached a tipping point in this conversation. I had been sharing with folks that COVID had brought the whole idea of regional networks and broadband, the visibility that we hadn't seen in the last 5 years. And we've everybody seems, all of our municipalities, they've gotten the memo. We're going to see huge investment come in here. And so, yes, we are pivoting at this point as a consortia. And it's not only, it's knowing that we're going to have infrastructure in the next several years. Now what? Now that's the question we're trying to plan for today. And that is, what's going to ride on the infrastructure? What are our communities going to look like? And so I'm looking at a group of early adopters. These are the people that are thinking about it today. They're going to want to usher it in and help it to occur. And I think that the process that Alan's got is very unique to our particular region, our Tri-County area. And so if we can just start building up support and show people what the future could look like, it'll be a very healthy conversation for us to have. So, George, I used your name in vain there. I don't know if you want to comment about that at all.
Well, we've all been working very hard over the years, stimulating the broadband conversation, and we've had some advances, some, satisfactory, some really making and setting the tone for the discussion of smart cities. And Bill, I like the way you paraphrased. It's coming, and now what? It's exciting times, and the conversation of smart cities, it's kind of been out there in the wind blowing around for a while, but now we're actually starting to not only see the technology come together, but we're also starting to see the need. People are asking about it in the municipalities, which is very interesting, because now they're not only looking to become more efficient, but they're also looking for revenue generation and unique ways to, I think add more services to the community, but utilizing less resources. And the smart cities provide that with the concept of smart cities, with integrated and working assets, sharing communication, sharing identity, etc. But that opens up a whole nother concern about privacy. I'm excited though about the potential of Coastal Trident and Antex this year, because I think coupled, as you said, Bill, with COVID and our shutdown, I think we're going to experience a breakout, and I think we're right on the cusp of that breakout for the technology and then the demand. So I think it's a very interesting time.
As it stands today, I think we've got 5 to 7 projects that are we can put the smart city label on it that are gelling. In the next month, I'd like to double that number, and that would be, come October, we could have, a forum where we say, this is what we did in 2021. And, here are the projects that we earmarked for smart city innovation. And a year from now, try to double it again, for 2022. That's kind of what I'm hoping. That's the drumbeat that I'm hoping that we can develop. But
George brings up a good point about the ROI as well, because without something that really is going to sustain the effort will fail. So, being able to be in this environment and understand maybe where the value is to others in a better way. I had a meeting yesterday with some fire detection guys, and they were sure their ROI was going to come from insurance companies. And I said, well, the insurance companies didn't push the seatbelt on the auto manufacturers. They rewarded the auto manufacturers for having seatbelts. So you have to get with Edison and PG and whomever to get better practices so that they can be rewarded for that kind of thing. So being able to have a collaborative effort again and really get amongst your peers is really invaluable in so many ways.
And what's interesting is I'm working to help put these projects together. You've got use cases on the public side, and then you've got industry side with the product and the innovation, the entrepreneurship. And they're different languages. I can find the use cases are there, but there is no business case. And so it's really fascinating to see. Yet there's a lot of cool tech, but yet the use cases aren't there. And so and you got to kind of play with both of these things to find where this connects. You really do have to. And Greg, you made the point extremely well. You don't know where the business case is going to come from, but it better be there. And we've got to be dealing with to make this work and to show some success. We're going to have to be dealing with both sides of that equation.
And it could be ubiquitous, like broad share, the benefit, or it could be very myopic, like keeping a nuclear bomb out of our ports. And the value proposition is there for both. It just has to be identified who the beneficiaries are.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Noel, you may have been hearing this for the first time. Jamie, you got an interesting Ojai perspective in economic development. I'd be interested in any reactions you have to this conversation, any questions we may not be answering for you that we should be.
Well, one, I just get excited when I see everyone focusing on solutions where we could hit. I come from the opposite side. I'm more of the city looking at issues, and we're grappling with traffic flow because we're a valley, and there must be solutions that we could figure this out. The next is, how in the world do we move all the tourists who need to move through a whole valley instead of getting back in their cars? So the autonomous, Bill, please keep me in the loop on that. I really am interested in that, because we can easily envision figuring out solutions to move people from their hotels and up and down the stores and restaurants without everyone having to get back in cars would be huge. And then parking solutions. People come in and I can go down that, but something that has nothing to do with people, and that is the drought issue. We're in a valley that is so dependent on one lake and our watershed. We're not connected to the California, and it's a very serious thing, water management and drought. And so I'm sure there are technologies that we could put on as a whole envelope over the valley here and figure out how we can just save every drop using, things with the city irrigation, et cetera. And lastly, but it's not as high on the list, but I know I've talked to Greg about this, but the horror, just terrifying moments when you go through a wildfire in 40-mile-an-hour winds and you're in a valley. We need somehow to have a chance to be prepared next time we end up in those heavy winds and all of a sudden a firestorm is coming right down on us. We almost lost the whole city if the wind had not shifted. And so again, it's not the top for a city, but again, the technologies I'm sure are out there. And so there are a lot of things that from a city point of view, we'd love to find out where we can get them, find the companies that are testing and get involved here, maybe invite them up to Ojai to test or see how it might work here. Because believe me, we do need to do a lot of those things.
And there's a point to be made about, there used to be a concern of, do you have broadband available? And that hurdle isn't there anymore because there are so many alternatives. And so we can find a solution for your circumstances, but we need to know the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
If I can pivot off Jamie's point about water, this is not a communications challenge, but Alan, you might want to weigh in over here. So I'm working with a SBA client who has put together the know-how for mobile water purification, and there are a dime a dozen these available. The need for quickly responding to a water purification needs has become apparent last couple of weeks. What's happening to our friends in Texas? One would think that this is all stuff that we've taken care of, but what it's showing us, it's not. I mean, the fact that in the 21st century, in a sophisticated and otherwise wealthy state, people are seen scraping snow into saucepans to boil water. It's just incredible to even think about it. I mean, so if that happened in Myanmar or in some place like that, Yemen, you would say, yeah, I think that's what it is, but not in Texas. So the point is that there is need for that. And this kind of the Small Business Administration has actually put something together, but there are obviously lots of dots to be dotted and T's to be crossed. So is there any opportunity for us to be able to work with you? I've never worked with your group or with what you're doing. Is there any interest?
I think it's kind of funny. I'm sitting about 50 feet from this particular company is called Waterful. They have and I'm not advocating for or against this particular product, but the point being is Noel, you're exactly right. I mean, this is a company that is looking at water storage solutions for home and industrial. Ships need water, the port needs water, and so sometimes we get these sort of right that if every home in Texas had their product, they'd have another 4 days worth of fresh water. And so, yes, these types of technologies, these types of capabilities find their way into Coastal Trident because of the nature of the fact that they are dual use. We had a number of, like I said, kind of a dime a dozen. We had a number of different water generation, water purification companies that have been involved. It's interesting because I would agree, I think in principle that they are kind of a dime a dozen. What is interesting though are the ones that understand that they don't maybe know everything about a market. And so they are willing to come here to participate in Coastal Trident, to push their particular capability or technology in a new way, to engage with folks like you that they've never talked to before. So those types of interactions and those types of engagements happen. They become smarter in understanding what use cases are. You know, folks like you will understand, hey, these types of technologies or capabilities are out there. You know, the military has been dealing with water for expeditionary warfare for a long time. And so, you know, there are providers that are just focused on that versus the regional and domestic ones. And so again, just I guess it's a long answer to yes, there's a space for all of that. And we see that and we embrace that. And if there's any way that, you know, we can help you, if you say, hey, you know, within your network, who's doing these kinds of things, we're happy to share that and connect or invite them or create a scenario that, you know, tests or evaluates it in a way that makes sense for you.
I just proposed a water purity solutions company, so we'll probably participate with that next.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
It's the 10 o'clock hour, and I didn't set up it on your calendars any more than 60 minutes for this conversation. But Alan, I'll probably want to, you know, I think we've already linked to your email. We'll do it some more and make sure that if people want to get a hold of you, they know where to reach you and you and make that connection.
Perfect.
So could I just ask a couple of quick questions?
Very quick.
Yes, very quick. So number one, the broadband capacity which is available at the port for the Coastal Trident, what is that capacity? And do you have assignable IP addressing?
Good question, George. It is generally, they have pretty good connectivity out here. We are working with them on getting sort of a subnet, or I don't know what the right term is, but that we can do assignable for, because we've gotten a couple questions like yours saying, hey, it would be really good if we had this capability. They're very amenable to it, and it's just a matter of sort of, again, understanding what the requirement is and having them do that.
Great, thank you. And just two more quick questions. When is the actual Coastal Trident Antex exercise? What are those dates?
Good question.
Yeah, good question. So it's kind of goes really in that sort of June and July timeframe. We try and wrap it up by the end of July, and traditionally we've done our sort of tech expo day, the last day of July 29th. And so because it is modular, each modular has its own sort of time frame. And so again, it kind of ends up being scattered across those kind of 2-month period of time. Some things go a little bit beyond. That's okay. But that's sort of the window we look for, sort of that June, July time frame.
Great, thank you. And Bill, you mentioned planning 30 to 60 days. So all of the planning for these modules will take place within the 30 to 60 day mark from, roughly this month.
Yeah, that's my guess. That's my timeline. What happens is we've already had an initial planning meeting last month. We're gonna, in the early part of March, we'll have a midterm planning meeting. In April, there'll be a final planning meeting, and then the exercise will occur. What I'd like to be able to do is, by the time we get to the midterm planning meeting, is have the projects defined. So, you know, we've got a month and a half or 2 months after to fit into that June, July window they're talking about, to make sure that we have everybody lined up, that the companies that are participating are ready, they'll be there, that the stakeholders and municipalities will be there, that, you know, we'll have a good turnout, we'll be able to maximize what conversations occur, what are the requirements, what are going to be the after action steps that happen next, and to build the right relationships, we need to carry it forward through the crawl phase, into the walk phase, and the run phase.
Thank you very much. Those were my questions.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Feel free to forward other questions to us and we'll pass them around, but I thank you for your support. And Alan, call if you need anything, you'll be hearing from us.
Sounds good. Look forward to working with all of you guys.
Thanks, guys. Good day.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye.
Bye.